So, can June Squibb be my best friend too? Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. As part of my coverage of TIFF50, the 2025 Toronto International Film Festival, today I'm going to be talking about the 2025 comedy drama Eleanor the Great, which will be released in theaters on September 26th. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and recommendations. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and even some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all that extra content. Eleanor the Great stars June Squibb, Erin Kellyman, and Chiwetel Ejiofor, and was directed by Scarlett Johansson in her directorial debut. It tells the story of Eleanor, a 94-year-old woman who moves to New York City after the death of her best friend of 70 years. If there's one overarching trend we've been seeing a lot of at film festivals the last few years, it's the prevalence of directorial debuts by well-known actors. It's a trend that makes sense, of course. Obviously, there's a built-in audience for this type of film. We like an actor's work in front of the camera, so naturally we're curious to see what they'll make when behind it. Big actors have plenty of experience in the industry, but that doesn't always translate well as they make the transition to director. In fact, some of the worst movies I've seen at film festivals have been actor directorial debuts. I'll never forget that especially rowdy P&I screening of Poolman at TIFF in 2023. But sometimes you get good or even great actor-turned-director efforts, so curiosity still pays off. Eleanor the Great is the directorial debut by Scarlett Johansson, and is a film I've been intrigued by ever since its debut at Cannes in May. So, when I saw that it was having its North American premiere at TIFF, it instantly jumped up to become one of my most anticipated movies of the festival, despite my shaky history with these types of debuts in Toronto. And although the film might not be quite as great as its name implies, it's still a solid movie and a strong first directing effort by Johansson. One of the things to be aware of with this film is that it's gonna simultaneously be one of your most unexpected and expected film experiences of the year. You'll look at this movie and think you've got a decent feel for what it is, right? A comedy drama directed by Scarlett Johansson, starring the incomparable June Squibb, so probably something entertaining, light, and sweet. And then maybe you watch the trailer and see that there's this melancholic grief through line to it all. So you mentally prepare for something slightly more bittersweet. And all of that is true and is present in the film, but there's also a very unexpected element to this story. I'm not going to spoil what it is since it's not in any of the marketing, but it's something that develops very early in the film and will likely completely reframe whatever expectations you already have for the movie. This could be a good or bad thing depending on your initial gut reaction to the plot point, but it does set up for what seems like it'll be an interesting, morally ambiguous conundrum. But after that unexpected plot point, the story proceeds in an exceptionally conventional manner. It hits all the emotional beats you'll expect. It hits all the plot points you'll expect. Basically, it becomes what you expected it to be all along, just with the addition of a moral curveball that's constantly vying for your attention. Luckily, everybody's biggest expectation of this film is absolutely fulfilled. June Squibb is as fantastic as you'd hope. It's the kind of performance where you really can't imagine anybody else in the role. To be fair, we don't have all that many 95-year-old actors still working today, but this perfect for the role quality goes far beyond her age. It's her screen presence, her biting humor, and pitch-perfectly delivered sarcasm. There's something inherently funny about watching a grumpy nonagenarian deliver one-liners, but it's not just a tacked-on gag. It feels authentic and genuine. And if her interviews and past performances are any indication, that sarcastic humor is genuine. It's Squibb. She also delivers on the traditional grandmotherly sweetness here, especially in her frequent interactions with Erin Kellyman's character, Nina, a journalism student with whom Eleanor develops an unlikely friendship. The humor's always there, of course, but so are the more heartfelt elements. Grief, loss, regret, loneliness, all heartbreakingly delivered. Squibb has an innate likability to her, which makes it impossible to dislike the character of Eleanor, even if you find yourself wishing you could. Really, she just gives an all-around strong performance that greatly elevates the story and truly carries the film. Eleanor the Great is a thematically prominent film that'll make you feel, though exactly what you'll feel is a bit less certain. As a result of that unexpected plot point I vaguely mentioned earlier, this is going to be a surprisingly divisive film. Let's start with the stuff I can actually talk about without spoiling anything. Even though it's got a lot of humor, this movie is primarily a film about grief. All the main characters have experienced the loss of a loved one, and the exact way in which that grief manifests is different for each person, which is one of the intended points of the film. It also delves into themes of identity, family, and especially friendship, this need for connection, even during the periods of your life where your natural inclination is to isolate. The film's handling of many of those themes, especially grief, is very heavy-handed, and things get excessively sappy, bordering on melodramatic at times, but there's still an overarching intended sweetness to it all. That's all well and good, but what about that divisive quality I mentioned before? Again, I have to be vague here so I don't spoil anything for people who haven't seen the film yet, but that reframing plot point early on in the movie introduces a very interesting moral conundrum. In many ways, it's frustrating and even reprehensible, but in other ways, it's completely understandable. And so we and the characters are left to figure out how we feel about what happened. Unfortunately, the film saccharinely and rather tidily wraps things up in a way that pretty obviously comes down on one side of this conundrum, when I think it could have been much more effective if kept morally ambiguous, and left up to the audience to ultimately decide how they feel about it all at the end. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. The biggest pro, probably unsurprisingly, is June Squibb. She truly carries this film and makes it what it is. Her perfectly delivered sarcasm and one-liners, her entertaining situational humor and mannerisms, she's just endlessly amusing and really keeps Eleanor likable even when elements of the story make that really difficult. And on top of all that, she delivers on the necessary heart and poignancy of the grief-centric storyline. Pro number 2 is the film's unexpected thematic handling. This is something that I suppose is slightly more of a mixed aspect for me than a straight pro, but I think this movie does a really interesting job, at least initially, with its early surprising plot point. Despite its comedy, the film's drama and thematic heaviness nicely set up for the mixed feelings that the audience is going to have regarding the situation and characters. I do think the film is a bit quick to explain certain things away, but for a while, the moral ambiguity of the grief-filled situation offers some interesting storytelling possibilities. They just end up being too saccharinely explored. On the con side, the biggest issue is how sappy the film gets. This won't be a problem for some people, and honestly, it's not even much of a problem for me for most of the movie. But then that third act hits, and whew boy, it's a bit over-sentimental throughout, but that final act trends towards mawkish and even melodramatic, and will either have your eyes rolling or leaking, depending on how emotional of a person you are. The second con is how conventional the story is. That might seem like a weird criticism at first, considering my point about the film's unexpected early plot point that's conveniently been left out of the marketing. But once you get past that revelation, the plot plays out exactly how you'd expect it to. Predictability and conventionality are fine, but given the moral ambiguity of the setup, it feels like a strange path to take, and a bit of a missed opportunity. It's all a little too conveniently executed and wrapped up, never fully tackling the most interesting and morally problematic elements of its story. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Eleanor the Great or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies or anything else. I'm gonna give Eleanor the Great 3.5 out of 5 paws. It's a funny and poignant examination of grief, friendship, and the desperate desire for connection. It gets a little mawkish in the final act, and the thematic reckoning may underwhelm some, but June Squibb really elevates the film, delivering sarcastic humor and sentimental heart in equal measure. I would recommend Eleanor the Great to people who want to see another solid June Squibb movie. She delivers on both the heartfelt poignancy and sarcastic humor you expect. expect. And honestly, she's really the big draw here. The film's an otherwise solid comedy drama, but the on-the-nose handling of its grief themes and the sappy melodrama may be too saccharine for some people. As for the curiosity of seeing Scarlett Johansson's directorial debut, the movie's fine, but I'm not sure there's much of a recognizable directorial style that shines through here to make it identifiable as her film. If you liked Eleanor the Great, I would recommend The Farewell. This is another grandma-centric comedic drama with a different type of moral ambiguity, this time related to illness. Primarily focusing on the relationship between a grandmother and granddaughter, this is another sarcastically funny but very heartfelt look at grief and aging. If you'd like another drama about aging and strained family relationships, you might want to watch Nebraska. This road movie is another story of memories, as a son tries to determine the best way to deal with his aging father. This film also features June Squibb once again using biting sarcastic levity to mask pain. And if you just can't get enough June Squibb, you'll want to check out Thelma. She delivers a very entertaining lead performance as a scammed grandma who devises a Mission Impossible style plan to get her money back. It's fun, heartfelt, and sweet, but best of all, it makes June Squibb an action star at 94 years old. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Eleanor the Great? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie about an intergenerational friendship? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insider information out of this review, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe or at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainely Movies. The way life should be.